Hey guys, finally he sleeps here. Today we're going to be taking a look at replacing a thermostat on Chevy Sonic. This is pretty much the same thing for Sonic, Cruze, multiple years. The method's all the same, and we're just going to be looking at it. Now, normally the channel is all about video games. We do flip some custom cars, so there's a lot of car stuff in there. But this is something that goes through, and I think I'm going to start putting a little bit more videos for these normal maintenance stuff. We're going to do this outside today. As you can tell, there's a project in the garage right now, another one of those. So let's take a look at this. All right, so the thermostat is actually right down here. It's on the side of the head. It's really not that hard to get to, and it just takes a few bolts to get in there to start removing everything. You're gonna need just a socket set. You're gonna need some star sockets and some Torx bolts, along with some way to remove the hoses. If they've got, like, these are actually set up with bolts on the clamps, so they're an easy switch. If you might need hose clamp removers, depending upon how this is done. I redid this not that long ago and just put standard hose clamps on it to make life a little bit easier. Here's what the new thermostat looks like. So you're gonna have electrical on top. There's a couple of clips that you're gonna have to remove. There's one on the back. You've got inlet and outlet hoses on the back side of it. We're gonna mark those so we know what is what. Then there's an attachment down in the front. There's a pipe that goes into there. And then we just basically have the hoses, and we're just gonna slap it all together and take it out. First step we're gonna do here is remove the pressure line here on the overflow tank, and we'll pull the overflow tank and set it off to the side so we've got some room to work. All right, step one, we went ahead and removed the pressure line here, and 10mm bolts are pulled out. So we're gonna go ahead and pull this up and just move it out of the way so we've got room to work, and now we've got more access down here. Next thing we're gonna do is take this, there's a bracket on the side, it's another 10mm bolt. We're just gonna pull that bracket off so that we have room to see where we can get to for all the wiring. Okay, so here's the bracket. The bolt was a little 10mm bolt. Went ahead and pulled that off. The next step, though, is going to be to go ahead and take off this. Now, the way you gain access to it is there's this safety clip here on the side. So we're just going to reach in with a little screwdriver and go ahead and release it, and then it'll pop right up, and you'll be able to take that off. But make sure you release that tab with a screwdriver, or you may end up breaking it. Before we go any further, we're gonna have to drain the radiator fluid. You can either get down and release it and drain it the smart way, or I'm just gonna go ahead and pull this hose off. I've got a drain pan down underneath, which you can see. We're just gonna catch everything we can. This is in the driveway, I'm not that worried about. Now, you may, depending upon if you've done anything to your suspension or not, to get a drain pan under, for us, it's actually, we had to drive the car up on blocks to make room for it, to get the drain pan underneath, but that's gonna be the next step. So we'll pull that main hose off and just drain everything, and then we'll go ahead and pop this clip off, and it just unclips. It just pulls up, there's no release, and you just gotta be really careful with it. You don't wanna break that clip. Okay, we now have the heater hose off the front, and the antifreeze is drained down into the drain pan, and I was able to get that clip off really slowly without breaking the clip and having to replace the line. That's a huge win. I think the last thermostat we put on was a couple of years ago, so that line's lasted that long. Some of the videos out there will tell you that that thing's gonna break every time. It is brittle, but if you're smart and you take your time, you can get it off without clipping it. So now we have everything disconnected here except for the clip here in the back and the heater hoses. Now, my best advice for the inlet and outlet heater hoses is to take and wrap the top one, which is the outlet, I believe. I think the top's the outlet and bottom's inlet. Wrap it in electrical tape, and then take a photo so that you know which one the electrical tape hose goes onto. That's the easiest way to do this. That way you don't get confused and have to figure out which one's the inlet and which one's the outlet. We're gonna line this up exactly the way we did and took it off. So we're just gonna wrap some electrical tape around that top one and then remove those two hoses. Okay, so we got the last one off the back. You see the little clip. Let's see if I can get it. So if we look here at the new pump. There is one right here, and there's a clip that goes on the back, and you can see the release here. This is an easy one to get off as long as you press this down and then just pull it up. So that everything is off. The only thing we need to do now is start removing the actual old pump down here. Underneath, there's this pipe that goes into the front. There are 2 Torx bolts there. There are also here on this side. You can see it better if we look at the actual new pump. So we have these 4 on the side right here. We have those 2 down at the bottom where the inlet pipe goes in. And then these bolts are, they are part of the actual housing. So we only need to take these 2 off and these 4 on the side. Here you can see it. These are what the actual star sockets look like, and I believe it's a number 10 is what we're going to use here for those on the side. These are just 3/8 inch drive, and remember those are what you're going to use to pull the ones off on the side of the thermostat. Now, as you can see, for these down here, these we're just using a Torx T30 just in a regular screwdriver to be able to pull these 2 off, and they just slide in there, and then you just break them loose and start pulling them out. So you can see here the 2 bolts, the Torx bolts are out, the pipe is loose. The next step is to start removing the star bolts on the side, as you can see, and we're going to start pulling these out next. And that's it. There's just 4. 1 here, 1 here, and 2 down at the bottom as well. And then the 2 holding in the pipe. And that's it. Just the 6 bolts to remove it. Okay, we now have all 6 bolts out, and we're just going to pull this old thermostat out. The whole thing has been removed, and as you can see down in here, there's a little bit of cleanup that needs to happen on the side of the head. So we'll just take wire brush and just clean all this up before we go to put the new one on, and then it's just a matter of everything in reverse order. Throw all 6 bolts back in and then start connecting the electrical and all the hoses. Okay, so now here's another tip. I've got these bolts in, but everything is just hand tight right now. This thing's still pretty loose, and the reason you do that and get everything hand tight is so that when you line up down here for this pipe to go into those 2 holes, you're not struggling to get those to line up. So get everything in hand tight before you start locking anything down. All right, so you can see we've got the thermostat back in. I still have to put the line on the front, but the inlet and outlet hoses are connected. All the wiring is back on. The clip here that we were concerned about snapped back into place, and we have the sensor back in up front. Now it's just a matter of putting the heater hose on the front, reconnecting the outlet to where it goes. Then we put antifreeze in, test, clear the codes. So now that we got everything back together, just gonna refill it, 50-50 antifreeze, just basically Dex Cool, it's nothing special. And we're just gonna refill, double check all of the fittings, make sure everything's back together. Then we'll test, we'll run it, make sure nothing's leaking. Then we'll get antifreeze to flow through. We'll burp the system just by letting it run with the cap off, get some air out of the lines, top it off, and then we'll check the code, clear it, and test drive. Next step is just going to be erase the code. All right, guys, it's done. The car is complete. It's been tested and the antifreeze topped off, codes are cleared, everything's good to go. It's really not that difficult. I think I got about 35 minutes in it, and that was with working the camera and
explaining every step of the way. So if you've got a Chevy Sonic or a Chevy Cruze, it's pretty much the same method. It's not a difficult thing. Make sure you like, subscribe, check out some of the other car related videos, and then hang out on here for the rest of the video game stuff. All right, thanks a lot. As long as you guys keep watching, I'll keep making videos.